I'm Sebastian from Skybow, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can migrate from InfoPath to SharePoint fully optimized and without any stress. Let us begin with InfoPath. And basically, we need to focus on the fact, and for me it's a fact that you need to step away from InfoPath, and better now than in 2 weeks or 2 months or even worse, 2 years. The support of Microsoft for InfoPath is ending by 2026. This means InfoPath will not be working afterwards. But even now, there wasn't an update for InfoPath since the 4th of December 2018, which should underline that you are really using, I would call it legacy software, and that there are things and ways on how to do things now that are way more convenient and that suit your needs probably way more. Generally saying, yeah, this goes in the same direction. It is just complicated to use InfoPath. It is hard to integrate with other modern software. So we come to the point that we say it is no longer a suitable solution for you. You need to step away. That's the first step and the first thing that I would like to state. And there is an alternative. This alternative is called Skybow Modern Forms, and it is 100% integrated into the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. It is a tool that works seamlessly integrated with SharePoint. So I like to say whatever SharePoint can do, Skybow Modern Forms can do, but Skybow Modern Forms adds a lot to the experience that you have in SharePoint. So when you are working with SharePoint right now, Skybow Modern Forms can do the exact same things that InfoPath used to do, but it is way more modern. It is an easy form creator. You can use drag and drop interface. You have tons of customization options that go from styling to rules to being to just showing what you really need inside of a form. So for example, if you want to have a visible expression, it is very easy to say this thing is only visible to those people who really need to see that. So the whole form, if you're using Skybow Modern Forms, becomes smarter. This is the point that I would like you to take away from this. If you move away from InfoPath, you can have the same forms with more functionality and more suited to whatever use case you have right now. And in addition to that, it is really responsive. So you can have it on a mobile phone, you can have it on a tablet, and you can have it, of course, on desktop, laptop, or whatever. So it enhances the SharePoint experience even further. Now, when I say we offer to you a forms designer, I'm not saying that you should take InfoPath and rebuild all your forms with that form designer. This was maybe a year ago, but now we found a great partner company from the US. This is Kutsu, and they offered us and you the possibility to fully automized migrate from InfoPath to Skybow. There are some steps, and I would like to go deeper into those steps to explain to you how this is possible. In the first phase of the InfoPath migration, you should probably find out how many forms do I have. It's important to know where do you stand, how many forms do you have, and then next to that, how many forms are really being used. Maybe I have 2,000 forms, but only 500 of them are being used. Of course, I do not want to put any effort in the 1,500 that are not being used. I want to focus on the ones that are really used and that are needed by my team. And in the end, I want to take the forms that are being used and I want to put as little effort as possible to get those forms from InfoPath to SharePoint. Let's dive a little bit into what differences are there between the forms. We made a complexity chart and we said there are level 1, level 2, and level 3 forms. And depending on the forms that you have, and you can also see that we can say which complexity you have and how many are easy forms, level 1, mid forms, level 2, and quite complex forms, level 3. Depending on that, your InfoPath migration process will change. The level 1 easy peasy lemon squeezy form can be migrated automatically to skybow. This means you will click on the InfoPath forms, you will see it in the list, it will show up as level 1 easy form, and you can with one click migrate it, and after that you have a fully functioning skybow form inside of your SharePoint environment. Of course, you can then use the skybow forms designer to make it even better, to enhance it, like I said it before. This is of course possible, but it is not needed. This is the level 1 form. The level 2 form means you will take it from InfoPath, you will have a one-click migration to skybow forms, but there are some things missing. Some small logic adjustments are needed. Some things might you might need to rearrange some things, or you need to think of new ways of logic. So you still need to put in some work, but for this you have the skybow modern forms designer, and then you have a good base and you just work it out. It's a couple hours of work. In the end, you also have the level 3 forms. Those are highly complex forms. You can still use the InfoPath migration tool. You still have something on the other hand, and you will have I would call it like a base template where you can start working from, but you need to be aware that you need to make some major adjustments to that form. So it's important to know how many level 1, how many level 2, how many level 3 forms I have. We are going to do a return on investment calculation based on that. And then you see it makes quite a difference of how many of which form you have. But this is just something you need to be aware of so that you can plan your InfoPath migration better. So I would say let's now dive deeper into examples of how you should do an InfoPath migration. First of all, as I said, you should automate the whole process. It is a lot easier to take the forms, click on automation, and then have the forms than having to rebuild everything. This will cost a lot less time and therefore also a lot less money. We call it hassle free. It really helps you down the line. And I think we are now in the year 2023, and I think this is how you should do a migration. It shouldn't all be manual work. It should be automated. And as I said before, the return on investment we think is out of this world. And we are going to give you 3 examples of how a return on investment would look like so that you really feel, hey, how much money would I save? How much work would it be less? So that you know, okay, this is the way to go. We divided it, and the first example that we've used is 500 InfoPath forms. We have 70% level 1 form, 20% level 2 form, and 10% level 3 forms. We calculated that this would be roughly 8,000 hours of manual work if you do not have an automation tool that would help you with it. This means 1,000 work days, 200 work weeks. With our costs, so with the full cost of skybow modern forms, the Kutsu form migration, InfoPath form migration, you would save $1.5 million with that. This means the return on investment factor is 86. But of course, you might sit in this call and say, okay, 500 InfoPath, I don't have nearly close to 500 InfoPath. I might only have 100 InfoPath forms. It is still quite impressive. You would still save 1,700 hours of time, 212 work days, and 42 work weeks, which will accumulate in a cost saved of 300,000 and an ROI factor of 83. And then You might still sit here and say, 500, that's not me. 100, that's not me. I have even less forms. I maybe have 20. I only have 20 forms, so why should I bother with an automated process? Because the ROI is still a lot better if you do it automatically than if you would do it manually. Even 20 InfoPath forms would probably be roughly 350 hours of time spent, 43 work days, 8 work weeks that you would still need to invest to bring 20 InfoPath forms into SharePoint. With the automation, you would still save $50,000 and you would have an ROI of roughly 70. I think this explains quite well why it really makes sense to think about automation, why you should step away from InfoPath and why you should always step away from manual work and rather do it automated. Thanks for watching. I hope you understand better now why it's better to migrate from InfoPath now than later. If you want to find out how many InfoPath forms you have, you can check the links in the description. See you there.